Hi everyone, this is Maya of Shining Bull Astrology, and in this video I want to share the main dates that I saw and that I am seeing, and that really any astrologer will see, as the most important for this year of 2022, so that you can understand how I'm framing my predictions and just like to try and explain kind of the weight of these different transits and how I see them affecting the price of Bitcoin, especially. So this is so that you can use my predictions further as a tool. Without further ado, I'm going to just start talking about this. So, the first big event has already happened, which is that Saturn turned retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. And this was on Saturday, June 4th of 2022, the year that I'm recording this. So, okay, so Aquarius is a very important sign for the context of this economic reset. This economic reset is happening because when Saturn was in Capricorn, due to the other positions of Jupiter and Rahu, and because Saturn is so strong in Capricorn, and because of the influence of Jupiter and Rahu at the time, the economy, as we all know, was unnaturally, it seemed, although everything is nature, kind of inflated. Now what's happening is that, so Aquarius is the next sign, and when Jupiter entered into Aquarius, we started to understand there was a problem. When Saturn entered into Aquarius, we started to see the real reality of the problem, and it started to correct itself. Now the thing is that the reason that, although we are speaking about a bear market right now, the reason that I don't see the bear market as having, or maybe I should say I don't see the recession as having really hit yet the way that it will, in my opinion, is because Saturn now is retrograding and going back into Capricorn. So there's a correction happening, but at the same time, when Saturn is retrograding in Aquarius, Saturn is kind of inside Capricorn also. And when Saturn is in Capricorn, Saturn is in Capricorn. And that's a return to that strength of that planet for the economy. But the thing is that Saturn, of course, is going to re-enter into Aquarius in the middle of January of 2023. And I see it as much more likely that that's when the real recession hits. And because of, obviously, I see it according to the planetary positions, but you can also take human nature as related to investing and trading. That gives us a window to take advantage of, and I'll explain this a little bit more in terms of astrology. So basically what I'm saying is I'll be very surprised if we're just down for the rest of the year, because if so, it would mean that mid-January is when we would start to go back up for all markets, and I see that as really unlikely. I could be wrong, and that is what would happen if we really are in this, at the beginning of a recession and the recession takes hold and we're just going down, down, down for the rest of 2022. That means that mid-January of 2023 is when we're going to reset and start going up. However, I really don't see that as, I could be wrong. And if that happens, that's what will happen. But I see that as quite unlikely, and I see it as more unlikely, I see it as more likely that mid-January of 2023 is when we actually start the real recession. Okay, but I wanted to give you that information so that you know the dates I'm dealing with, so that if I'm wrong and we really do just keep going down, well, you know that mid-January is when we would start going up. Okay, now I'm going to keep going with this. So The next big thing that is about to happen very soon is that Mars is going to enter into the sign of Aries. That happens on Sunday, the 26th of June of 2022. Now, Mars is the ruler of Aries. Mars is very strong in Aries. And right now, Rahu is in Aries, near the end of the sign of Aries. Mars, of course, will enter into the beginning of the sign of Aries. So, now, what I have been observing as an astrologer is that Rahu in Aries has been causing, not causing, I wouldn't say, but has also been a reason for the downward trend and I would say. And I can say, for example, that with Jupiter in Pisces, Rahu in Aries is second from Jupiter and rules the 12th house from Jupiter. And I take Jupiter to be very important for Bitcoin as kind of actually the ruler I see. Many astrologers have different opinions. I have noticed that Jupiter is the ruler of Bitcoin, just as I have noticed that Jupiter is the ruler of gold. So that means, so if you know astrology, then you know the second house is liquidity and then the 12th house is loss. Now, what I see happening is that when Mars enters into Aries, Mars is going to take hold of Aries and make decisions as to how things are going to start going. Mars in Aries, in relationship to Jupiter in Pisces, is the second lord and is also the ninth lord of Scorpio. So I, for that reason and for other reasons, see that it's very likely that Mars entering into Aries will be good for reversing the trauma that Rahu has been instigating in the markets. Okay, and it doesn't mean like at the very beginning there can be some instability because first Mars has to pass through the Gandanta, which is very emotional. But then I really see that as a stabilizing and then starting to push up Bitcoin price. So why? Well, we have that. That's a huge deal. That's a very, very big transit for this year. Mars's entrance into Aries. And then what happens is that in the middle of July, Saturn enters retrograde into Capricorn. And then the next day, I think, Saturday the 16th of July, the Sun enters into the sign of Cancer. In all of my research, and as you would have read in my first book long ago, it seems, Bitcoin and Astrology, Sun in Cancer in the Vedic or sidereal system, or ephemeris, really pushes Bitcoin up. And it's a very clear and has been that way since I think the price, since the price could be tracked according to the birth chart I use. So that's and so Sun in Cancer is extremely powerful for pushing Bitcoin price up. Now this year there's something unusual happening, which is of course Saturn entering into Capricorn right around that same moment, which means that they're now in opposing signs. However, I know that how powerful the Sun is in Cancer, and of course how powerful Saturn is in Capricorn. And I don't think that at that moment, so at that moment, I really don't see this being negative for Bitcoin price. Okay. I see it as actually being positive, and I'm actually predicting that is when, around the 16th of July, is when there can be some kind of reversal on the Fed's decision in the US. Why? Because I just also noticed that that day, in the moon transit, Sun is 6 from the moon. And I'm just noticing from that chart, it really seems like a moment that could be a reversal point policy-wise, that could be the reason that the prices keep going, the markets continue to go up after Mars's entrance into Aries. So, okay, so then, and so, yeah, if you've been, well, you just take what I'm saying and, I hope that it's useful to you in whatever way to form your own analysis and to notice what's going on and then kind of understand it in that framework also, because, I just hope it can be helpful to you. So next thing, that's the next very important transit, is Jupiter turns retrograde in the sign of Pisces. That happens on Thursday, the 28th of July. I see that as being very, very positive. That's what I see. And by the way, I just would like to say everybody really should take care of themselves, because Saturn's retrograde can make things quite wacky, in your own lives. And so, self-awareness is really important, to be aware. So that you can interface with reality in a highly responsible way, responsible for your own body and mind, and take care of yourself, basically. Because it's not easy, it makes things just quite wacky indeed. So then Saturn's retrograding, I'm saying. Okay, next huge event, which I kind of, when I was looking at the chart, I have to say it's really very, very intense. That is when Mars and Rahu conjoin in Aries. That's when they come exactly together. That happens on Monday, the 1st of August. The thing about that is that for me is, I don't know, because Sun is still in Cancer, which, as I've said, is extremely powerful for Bitcoin's price having gone up ever since the birth chart that I use, which originated in 2017. No, sorry, not 2017. When the Bitcoin chart I use is when the first pizza was bought with Bitcoin, as many of you will know. So anyway, since then is when I've been tracking the price. So since then, Sun's transit in Cancer, which lasts a month, from mid-July to mid-August, every year, causes the price to go up in a strong way. So when Mars and Rahu conjoin exactly in Aries, Sun is still in Cancer. So there's still a lot of force for upward potential. However, not just because of that conjunction, of course, but because of what else is happening in the chart on that day and the various configurations, that is very intense. So I'm gonna leave that kind of as, just so you know, there's still a lot of upward force, but at the same time, it's a really startling moment. So that's something important to know. But just so you know, there's a lot of upward force created by the Sun still for Bitcoin. Now, so that's happening on the 1st of August. My first inclination would be to say that would take the price up, because Sun is still in Cancer, and because the next important event that I see is very close to when Sun enters into the next sign of Leo, which means Sun is in that Gandanta, which also means that Sun is transiting Bitcoin's natal Mars. And so that happens on Sunday, the 14th of August, and that is when the Sun is in exact opposition to Saturn in the sky, because Saturn is at the very end of the sign of Capricorn and Sun is at the very end of the sign of Cancer. Not to mention, as I said, transiting Bitcoin's natal Mars. So I would be inclined to say that that would create a drop. At the same time, I want to give you this information so that in the case that the drop happened at the beginning of August, this could send the price back up, especially because Moon, I notice, is transiting Bitcoin, is exactly actually on Bitcoin's natal Jupiter at this moment, and because of the Dasha sequence, especially for Bitcoin. So I definitely, obviously, this will have to do with the Fed's decision with policy, since it is Saturn and the Sun. And it could be good, but it could be good. It's like I see that. That's the thing, is that I do. So you see what I'm weighing here. It's like on August 1st, it should be really bad, but on the other hand, Sun is still in Cancer, in a good place for keeping Bitcoin price up. On the other hand, 14th of August, it should be bad. It should be. It could be good. It could actually be good. At the same time, there is also a lot showing that it's very difficult for it to be good because Sun is transiting Bitcoin's natal Mars in the Gandanta and in exact opposition to Saturn. And so I would be inclined to say what I already said. Okay, next. The next big event is that on Sunday, the 23rd of October, Saturn turns direct. That means things become much less wacky. And I see this as being positive for Bitcoin. Okay. However, I'm hearing an ambulance siren right now. However, I really do see that as being positive for Bitcoin price. Okay, so, but just so you know, it is another huge shift. Okay, and so let's say that it could definitely, while Saturn is stationary and changing direction, it could be that there is some huge amount of volatility. I do see that it should be good for Bitcoin price, Saturn turning direct. But on the other hand, let's see, because I'm the ambulance siren is still happening. So I'm not sure now actually about that. So especially, I suppose, if we have the price going up until then. Okay. All right. So next is that the next big event is quite soon afterwards. So that next big event is that Mars is turning retrograde at the beginning of the sign of Gemini on Sunday, the 30th of October. Again, I saw this as being a positive thing in my 2022 predictions. Now, let's just frame this in the following way. When I see when I see all of us entering into a real recession, or the real, for example, let's take the housing market, for example, that when I see, for example, it being very obvious that the housing market has crashed, and we are really entering into a recession, a serious time of prolonged correction, as I mentioned, is mid-January of 2023. Now, so that's when Mars turns direct. Remember, I've just spoken about Saturn turning direct 23rd, end of October, let's say, near the end of October, about Mars turning retrograde at the end of October. Now I'm telling you, mid-January is when Mars turns direct. It is when Saturn re-enters into Aquarius. So, that does leave us a time frame, right? Imagine if the markets are going up all the way through to, let's say, the 23rd of October, when Saturn turns direct, yes, it will create a shift. But since that's happening when Mars is turning retrograde, that would also mean that between October and mid-January, there's some correction, and then perhaps mid-January we're free. We're not going to enter into such a serious recession. Okay, so you see, we all know that this definitely depends on how, like in the real, when we speak outside of the celestial bodies or inside, like naturally the Fed, the decisions they make and the timeline of those decisions is very naturally influential to how all of these corrections will be happening. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to tell you. And that's what I'm seeing. So that way you can weigh what's happening and kind of see what that can foretell for how our future is going to be the next year, and then also starting in the middle of January of 2023. But I really see that what I see, and but I can be wrong, so that's why I wanted to give you my time frame so you see what I am basing my ideas on, so that you can see, oh, if Maya was wrong with something, then that means that this other thing is happening, and that we might kind of see this whole recession story unfold in a different way, right. So that was the purpose of this video. I hope that it helped, and I hope it helps. Maybe you can take down notes of what I'm saying, and then that way you can kind of look at what's happening with the markets. And I think you should, if you're not on my Patreon, you should follow me on Twitter. And because I update on Twitter a lot. So thank you. Okay, bye. Thanks.